Welcome to Wild by Zones, the podcast about reviewing every zone in popular MMO World of Warcraft. I'm Ari.
Horan.
I'm Eowyn, probably.
I think by process of elimination you have to be.
I could be a clone who replaced Eowyn, so...
We were so close to having a normal intro, guys.
I'm the one who ruins it every single time on purpose.
If it ever seems like it's going to be normal, one of us has to say something. It's just upsetting otherwise.
You gotta fuck it up. Otherwise, what's the point? Who wants to hear a normal intro?
Fair. And this time we're going to be working at the spooky forest of Duskwood. So Duskwood is the third of the human focus. Sorry, fourth of the human focus zones. Sorry, Elven Forest was so bad I forgot it existed. I blocked it out of my mind.
You forgot the first one. Insane.
It was really bad.
I thought it would be Red Ridge that you forget. Everyone forgets about Red Ridge.
You spawn in Westfall. That's where you start. That's the beginning zone, right?
Exactly, right?
You're a farmer.
The beginning area started of the human experience is a fever dream.
Oh.
Anyway, it is the fourth zone in that human starting area, and the last part of this human starting experience. And it is, as per the name, a spooky, dark, evil forest where there's a lot of problems, mostly involving werewolves, undead, and sometimes spiders. There's a lot of spiders, and they won't drop their freaking venom.
Yeah. As a zone, I find it interesting that it doesn't really look that different, in its core, than Elven Forest. With a little bit of Red Ridge and Westfall in there, but mostly like Elven Forest. The architecture is the same. The trees aren't particularly different, but everything just sort of shadowed and dark and spooky, and just that different context makes everything just feel off, just on a pure zone structure level. As you're walking back and forth in the zone, almost feels like walking back and forth in Elven Forest. You have this one long road across the whole zone, but when you're looking out and you're seeing these fields filled with rotting maggots and zombies and stuff, it feels a little bit less so comfortable.
Yeah, I suppose we could probably jump right into the mood. The mood of this place it's very, despite it being another early game undead type zone. It's a very different impression to Tirisfal Glades and Silverpine. It's more similar to Silverpine Forest, but it's very different from Tirisfal in that it's very much it feels like you are a human traveler going through a dark, spooky forest where there's bad shit going on, which classic RPG feel to have doing that. And
sure. With Tirisfal Glades, it feels mainly there's a feeling of mournfulness, right? This was something once that was beautiful that has fallen. Here, it's much more you are in the wilds, you were in the woods, you were in a place you should not be, and the world is going to punish you for that.
Ooh, yeah, you're the Red Riding Hood, and there's a big bad wolf in the forest type vibes. I get you. And spoiler alert, this sounds really good. Really good. After 3 zones of humans that were varying levels of disappointing, it was weird to go into one and realize I was I wasn't expecting much from this zone because the other zones in the human starting experience have just not been that good. This one's amazing. It completely sells this sense of horror, this classic RPG feeling of you're effectively a regular guy stuck in this horrible, magic, spooky, dark forest. Which again, that's a classic feel in these kind of RPG zones in an early undead zone. Often will try to hit this kind of in an early undead area in an RPG will often try to hit this kind of tone, and man, does Duskwood nail it.
I think one of the things, especially with a similar note that I had with the Horde version of Ashenvale, but a lot of the zone structurally requires you to go from the town on one side to Raven Hill, the big end place with all the scary zombies and the big elite skeleton walking around that kills you in one shot, etc. Space. And it's they could have made the zone is more progression, which often zones tend to be. It tends to be the preferred way, but because this you have to kind of go back and forth, and most of the zone isn't empty, but it's not dangerous in the same way. It's mostly a little bit of skeletons and Morgan here and there, but mostly just spiders and wolves, which are uncomfortable and you don't like them. They're hard to fight. Like they have to constantly like deal with them as you go through. You can't go through comfortably, but more the feeling of walking across the zone is that of discomfort and
foreboding.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and the fact that you have to constantly go across the zone back and forth every single time you want to go and accomplish something feels like you were coming home. And even though Ravenhill, what's the Darkshire? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Darkshire is the main town.
Yeah, Darkshire isn't like a happy town as anything. Slowly as you it becomes more and more of a haven throughout the zone, and I really, really enjoy just that constant trek back and forth. And I think it perfectly sort of encapsulates what Duskwood does so well. And
yeah, this haven feel is super enhanced when you go into the inn, which is like almost jarring the first time you enter it because it has like super happy, comfortable, upbeat music. Like it is so different from the rest of the zone. You literally like breathe a sigh of relief when you get in there. You're like, okay, everything's all right. I'm in this nice inn with this fireplace and the music is very nice and makes me feel comfortable. It really enhances the way that, okay, this is the only truly safe place in this entire zone. Everywhere else is filled with danger and is distinctly uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I think about like the quests you get in the inn. They're very like classic WoW quests, right? Oh, go and kill spiders to get me their stuff so I can make you a recipe, stuff like that. It's very like feels very rote, but in a way that's like, oh, this is familiar. This is something I know. Where the other quests in the zone are much more like, oh, this group is suspicious of this other group, or oh, this is leading us in this much more dangerous path. Like it feels like the actual structure of the quests in the inn just feels so much closer to what we've been comfortable with, and especially in the other human zones, but across the game so far. And I really like that as a sort of structural contrast to the quests you do in the rest of Darkshire.
I think we can start like getting into like the quests then. There's sort of I want to say 4 major quest lines in Duskwood. Like Duskwood is very much like arranged around there are some like oddball quests here and there, but like the vast majority of the zone is focused around a few major quest lines.
But what about the crab cakes? They're so important because they're made of spider.
There's the oh, sorry.
I just talked about the crab. I didn't actually talk about them in word, but that was what I was referring to in the name.
No, I needed the specific detail that crab cakes are actually spider cakes.
Yes,
it's very important.
These Darkshire people are not very. I'll say they're kind of working with what they got, you know.
Damn,
hey, if it works, it works.
Honestly, that's kind of the vibe of all human zones, like.
Just trying to make it.
In terms of resources, everyone's like kind of scrounging. Nowhere feels like really plentiful.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's interesting, like compared to Elwyn again, because Elwyn has that sort of peaceful, serene sort of character to all of it. But the actual quests, in some ways, feel a little bit more desperate, a little bit more like, oh, what's going on here? Oh, we don't feel like we have any power, anything like that. I think Duskwood almost like feels like the conclusion of that. Oh, we've made the discomfort of Elwyn like apparent in the actual environment. We've taken the psychology of the average person in the Stormwind Kingdom and we've expressed it onto the environment.
Right. Yeah, so I'm trying to see if I can remember all of the major quest lines. There's the Kalor Worgen hunting. There's Jitters and more. There's the Jitters and Mr. Sven Jorgen quest lines. There is Abercrombie's quest line. And there is Stalvin Mistmantle. Am I missing? Oh, and Morgan Lattimore. 5 quest lines.
I feel like the Morgan Lattimore one, like he's a presence that exists as soon as you go to Ravenhill, but technically the quest line is only like 2 quests.
Mm-hmm. That's true, but I feel like it's worth listing with the rest of them. But
yeah, it is important.
I think we should start with the simplest one, the Kalor Worgen hunting. Also, so there's an NPC in town, which is like a black leather-clad edgy boy named Kalor, talking about how the Night's Watch the guards of their own are incompetent and aren't really capable of defending the realm. But that's
crazy because they also wear black leather. Like they all he's dressed really similar to them.
I just want to say this real quick. I think the Night's Watch in all of WoW have the coolest just vibe of any like little like town guard of any zone ever. I love their like like cold steel sword with like the red like strip running through the middle of their black leather. They just look awesome as heck.
I like
They
how they all
just seem
carry.
like more competent.
Yeah.
I like how they
Even
all
though
carry
still make
torches
you do
too.
everything.
I like the vibe of the People's Militia in Westfall too, but yeah,
Nah, bruh. Those people seem useless.
they're doing their best.
Not good enough.
But yeah, Kalor, who sends you into the woods to fight Worgen. This is probably the least involved of the quest lines, but it is still worth noting because of the way it ties into, we talked about Duskwood earlier when we did the Ashenvale video, and the Worgen are the result of the Scythe of Elune. I don't think we need to get too far deep into that because we talked about that a while back.
It's an ancient artifact from the moon goddess that summons Worgen, and Worgen make more Worgen by biting people.
Yep. And she seems that, and the Scythe seems to have been involved with how stuff went here. Kalor is kind of a fun character. He's just like this is like very edgy dude who is talking about like how in the darkness we hunt them to serve the light and stuff like that. And it's kind of fun. I like the texture he adds to the zone to have this like spooky kind of like insular monster hunter guy going on there. It doesn't really go anywhere, unfortunately, beyond like, hey, here's our master of the light, and he's kind of a zealot. But it's kind of cool. I like the texture that having this dude adds to the zone.
Yeah, for sure. Especially because I think his suspicion of the Night's Watch and just generally the people of Duskwood is sort of plays into like the paranoia I was talking about other ways. No one really sort of trusts each other fully or truly. Like he's just like, no, we have to do all these quests. Like the first like half of the quests he gives you are not because he wants you to solve a problem. It's like, oh, I need to make sure like you're tough enough and that you are like loyal enough to like a cause, this monster hunting cause that I have here, to be able to trust you with these other elements here. Which
it's really emphasizing the resentful nature of the human kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's true. And to be fair, he's right to suspect some of the authority because it turns out there's a dragon.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's also like fun and interesting. I guess you said it mentioned like because he's a paladin. Like you think of paladins as like in a way like this like these out in the light, these holy, these avengers. They're like they're scary, but they're not like the kind of people you'd imagine like being in the shadows and like that. So it's like the very light itself has been subverted here into something that has to be dark and who would work in back channels and be suspicious of everyone. And I don't know. That's just great to me.
Haven't you played the new expansion? Everyone knows the light is evil. Just kidding. It's neutral. Whatever.
Yeah.
And I actually forgot. The guy that Kalor works for, Jonathan Caravan, was actually our human contact in the Scythe of Elune quest from Ashenvale. So that was kind of cool. I actually forgot about that.
Yeah, that's something I think is weird. I think because well, getting it here is like compelling. Getting it in Ashenvale is compelling in itself. It's like it feels like they kind of want each other like to be a full story. You have to like see it from the different perspectives and then to get the full sense of it. And I think a lot of classic WoW is so sort of like whether this is a problem or not is kind of like up to like personal taste, but like it definitely like struggles with someone who's not willing to go through all the different zones and see everything from all these different perspectives. And like,
well, I don't think it's a problem in terms of how WoW was originally created. Like the whole point was the whole game. You weren't supposed to be like it's not like how modern WoW functions where you get through the quests and they're fun, but the real goal is the end game. Here they're trying to you're supposed to play every zone. You're supposed to play multiple characters. Like it's and that's the only way to get the full story because that's what they want you to be doing.
And to be fair, if you're playing a Night Elf, the Scythe of Elune questline also serves as effectively a breadcrumb to take you to Duskwood. And you could like go there after you do a lot of Ashenvale and do some of the quests there to get a sense for another part of the world. I also like it as connective tissue that makes Duskwood feel not have the issue of just being like an insular thing that just sort of exists on its own. Having it connected to the outside world with the Scythe of Elune helps place Duskwood in the world of Warcraft. Now, Kalora is probably the weakest of these quest lines, but
It's very repetitive.
mhm. The next one I think is
Kill
the next.
dogs, go home. Kill more dogs, go home. Kill more dogs. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Or you kill like 100 fucking Worgen, and like it's just like you kill new Worgen at different places that are slightly
Hey,
more powerful.
at least it's not the fucking Trog quests, or you go to the same place.
I feel like I really liked the parody in Dragonflight where this guy makes you kill like 1 billion fucking gnolls, and he keeps lying and being like, no, we'll be done after this, I promise. And then every single time he's lying. It's awesome.
That's really funny. They parody the old WoW quests.
Yeah.
I think the next one to talk about is Jitters. Jitters, the key characters of Jitters and Sven Jorgen. So Jitters is a really interesting like little character to run into. You'll likely run into him when you like first go to Raven Hill for one of the many quests that you have to go to Raven Hill for, and you run into this weird hermit dude that is just nervously pacing about a well in the town, in the like abandoned town of Raven Hill, outside the the cemetery where outside of like the cemetery where all the undead are. But like he's like the only like sign of like human life here as this one dude.
Pacing nervous, I think, doesn't quite capture it. He's literally walking in circles forever around a well. Like,
Yeah.
it's not. It doesn't just look like nervousness. It looks like insanity of some type.
Mm-hmm. And through the quest line, you get to know Jitters and another character, Sven Jorgen, a little more.
Wait,
But I really
doesn't Jitters not have any quest for you initially? He's literally just a guy who walks around the well, right?
Jitters has one quest for food, I think. He like asks you to like help him like get his order from like Darkshire,
Okay.
which for whatever reason he's not willing to go there himself. He's just like, no, I had to stay here.
Basically, the vibe you get is the man is insane.
Mm-hmm. Huh. And like and you usually will like run into him before you run into like the real main character of the quest line, Sven. Sven Jorgen is another little monster hunter type character who's like hanging out in a camp at the edge of town, close to the borders with Westfall and Elven Forest. And he is like very much the most involved in like specifically hunting the undead. He wants you to like help deal with the undead of the undead that are like have infested Raven Hill. He's been fighting against the big necromancer Morbid Fell. And he also wants you to like after you've done a little bit of the undead hunting, he wants you to do him a favor to go back to his old farmstead, which is completely infested with the undead, and recover like any evidence of like what happened there, because he had a family down at one of the farmsteads that is now fucked up and evil, and he wants to like just find like evidence of what happened to them. And you find some letters that like, and you find like a part of a journal, and let me tell you, reading that journal, and that you can actually like read as like a character here, and I heavily recommend, by the way, anytime you find words and texts that you can read in Duskwood, please read them. They're so good. Talking about a guy who like was welcomed, who was like just like welcomed into the Jorgen farmstead and trying to just hide out on his own from forces, and was afraid of being discovered, and when horrible things happened because he had something, and then talking about how they found him, some mysterious forces called Dark Riders, and the way they're described is great.
Technically, they don't find him. They find Sven's family who shelter Jitters.
Yes. And rather than like
give him like a long description of how the wife tries to like trick Sven's wife tries to trick the Dark Riders And like it looks like it's gonna work, and it looks like everything's gonna be fine. Like the book that the stupid little text you're reading is trying to pull a bait and switch on you, and like you kind of believe it because it's actually well written until the inevitable hammer comes down. And it's like nope, and then they slaughtered her and the children. And Jitters successfully hides from them and then just flees.
The book doesn't mention specifically that jitters, but you can tell from just the way it's written within the mentionings, the idea of like, oh, the this nickname is comes from the nervous ways he like paces about or something like that. Okay, obviously that's jitters, but I think it's cool. Just sort of like it's taken as this is some. It starts off, and I don't think at first you can tell. At first you're like, sort of, this is just some person's like a testimony and that sort of thing. And as he slowly goes on, until he feels more and more unhinged, and you start to like get a sense from him, like, that's where that guy comes from. That's why he's like this, right? You think,
yeah.
I think we see him at first, and like, it just makes sense to him to be like that because like he's the only human living in Raven Hill, right? Obviously, he could be driven insane in some way, but it's like something that's like more specific. And I think the more specificity of the zone is kind of a characteristic. I want to mention back to the to Sven. I think most of the characters in the zone think of most of the threats in Duskwood as something that's just there. There's just undead there. There's just working there. There are things that we have to deal with. They're terrifying, but there's not some kind of big conspiracy and a big thing, right? They're all a little bit paranoid, but on a directed way. But Sven says, no, there is a necromancer. That necromancer is specifically building this whole skeleton army, and we have to deal with him in this step-by-step manner, right? He sees this as a specific aimed goal. I think it's really interesting that...
Hey, excuse you, the hermit is also has a very specific planned out goal to deal with big problems. Namely the living in Darkshire.
But the sort of contrast between like the general sort of anxiety and like just terror of the world versus like this, oh no, there is some specific thing, this specific like intelligent threat that is going to come and take care of these dark riders coming thing, this necromancer bringing everything up. And that contrast feels like really characteristic of the classical fantasy horror of Duskwood. Which I was thinking about when we were talking about the specific tricks that the wife plays on the Dark Briars to try to get them to leave the farmstead and keep them all safe, right? It feels like those types of stories, right? Those types of you play these games with the monsters, you do these little like take these little steps to move them to these directions and make them think these things, and maybe eventually we'll be free because of that. But most of the time, of course, in these classical horror fantasy, you just end up dead. And I think Duskwood is like, as just a classical fantasy horror, is just insanely compelling, just on so many levels.
Fun fact. Now, to be fair, you as a character are not allowed to conclude that it's jitters right away because you have to like do some like little investigation in Darkshire to like figure out who actually did it, which I like. I like. I think it like adds to like the quest line to have that little investigation, even if you as a player figure out it's jitters right away.
I always just felt it was like for stupid players who didn't figure it out themselves. But maybe I'm really mean.
I liked it for the pacing. I liked it for the pacing reasons. I figured out it was jitters right away also, but like Sven didn't know. I mean, Sven apparently Sven. When you bring that information to Sven, he has you go to Jitters and shoot. I don't actually remember what he has you do with Jitters. Like you press him for information or something. This relationship I think is actually done a little bit better in the Cataclysm version, although you don't get the same background, unfortunately.
Yeah. But they don't, to be clear, they don't just say, oh, it's jitters. Like Sven is like, oh, it's jitters. It does have you just like here are the clues we have of this character. Go find him, which I think is nice. You know, at least gives you the feeling of finding this person, even if it's pretty obvious. But I don't think that when Sven has you find him, it just doesn't like. He doesn't like have you like do anything bad or anything like that. Just like he just sort of like says find him and sort of squares up with the journal, and he gives you Jitters gives you the rest of the journal when you get to him.
Right, yes.
He says, here's the complete story of what happened. Because the first journal you get is sort of like unclear and like the story is like half put together and it feels a little bit more neurotic and crazy, right? It feels like the ravings of a madman in some way. We get the full journal, it feels, okay, this is actually feels like a put together full story. Which is also cool because first you assume it's jitters because it's insane writing, but actually the writing isn't as insane when you read it in its complete form, which is I think it's just
that's true.
I think interesting note.
All right, and you go make and then you go like take a long trek over to Manethil Harbor, build a weapon against Morbid Fell, the Necromancer. And by the way, when you go to Morbid Fell's house, like you know how like the gloom that it offsets in Duskwood this whole time that like helps it like feel that makes it feel like it is wrong. Around Morbid Fell, the Necromancer's house, the gloom is like oppressively dark.
Can't see anything.
Like
It's
black
kinda annoying.
smoke. Like as if like there's a thick black smoke filling the thing, like an oppressive atmosphere that I really like. And once you have built once you have built a weapon that can hurt the necromancer, you do it and you kill him. Now, of course, you get the impression that it's not over yet because Morbenfell was just a piece of this puzzle. He was a necromancer who was working with these Dark Riders figures, but he was not their mastermind. Destroying him will help, certainly, but it won't. I mean, it won't stop whatever greater darkness is there. And unfortunately, the thing that this was meant to build to is just not in the game. I think this was meant to like indicate because there were plans for Karazhan to be implemented in the like in classic WoW at one point, and I think
to be clear, Karazhan is like this big spooky castle run by this old crazy wizard where the Dark Riders come from.
Who's dead? He's dead.
Yes. I think it was, and I think it was meant to point us in that direction for like future content and build towards it. And unfortunately, it just never happened, which is a darn shame because I really like the way this like stuff sets up these Dark Riders as a threat and builds intrigue about them, and they're just not in the game. So that's a bit of a blemish against. I don't think it's a blemish against this zone. It's more just a blemish against Classic WoW in general,
for sure,
and how it was like not planned out correctly.
I do want to emphasize something you sort of skimmed over, and that's the forging of the weapon. Like if we get to the point where he's like forging the weapon, he's like, oh, it's like he tells you like this story of this like ship that was sailing across the ocean. I think during the Second War, maybe the Third War, that sank off the stone. He's like oh, and there was this like really important shipment of these I think iron or ingots. I think they're iron, and they're really effective for slaying this creature, right? And you go halfway across the world to grab that thing, and then can come back, bring it to Stormwind, of course, which is like the place where all these masters like craftsmen forge it for you, and then return back to Duskwood. And as I mentioned earlier, this sort of like classic fantasy, like horror, sort of ethos of the zone, I think is like sort of encapsulated in moments like that, where you just go on this just little adventure just to build this weapon that you can use once to defeat the big monster. And I love like that moment when you just sort of like stab it into them and transform and basket to a normal enemy you can interact with and defeat. And it's funny because at the very end of the quest, it becomes you get that weapon, but not anymore as like a weapon, but like I think it's a trinket with like a special effect to it. And I think that's really cool. It's like almost like this little like trinket of good luck, of like hope that you have of like you going on this massive adventure just to do this one action with this weapon. I thought that was really cool. Mm-hmm. And again, was one of those many things that make you feel like Duskwood, while being a part of the human complete story, feels like a very self-contained fantasy story.
I think we can. I think that covers the jitters and Sven Jorgen stuff. I think now let's talk about probably the most famous character in Duskwood, Abercrombie.
So Morgan Lattimore is the most famous.
I'm not sure. I feel like it might be Abercrombie because
no, it's Morgan Lattimore because he kills everyone all of the time in Duskwood.
That's true, he does.
And people get mad.
But first, I think now we should probably talk about while we're in Ravenhill. I think Abercrombie is a good person to talk about too. Abercrombie is a weird hermit who lives not in like the abandoned human portion of Ravenhill, but like towards the like undead parts in the graveyard, like in a weird little tent on the side. Who keeps like just this very strange old man who keeps asking you for various things with explanations about like comforting his home or warming his frail old bones. And just like keeps asking
he's like, yeah, I need this zombie juice, I need this comb, I need this like ghost hair. It's all like a super. It's like, wow, this is like really, really suspicious. Oh well.
Like the ghost hair quest is really cool because
It's
you need
very fun.
you need to get a comb from like a woman to go and then find a banshee who's like sort of like besotted with herself, like besotted, sorry, I'm like upset with like just like clearly just like it's mournful some way, and you comb her hair and you're like, oh, they give her a comb to comb her hair to give her like, and she's like, oh, you're gonna give her some happiness, like it's almost like you feel to get there, and then she like feels like more disgusted with herself, and she like is able to like get this one object that connects her back to beauty and life, and that's like. I don't know. I just find that one little quest just a very like compelling, like memorable moment.
Yeah, and it's a quest where you just ultimately just a quest where you go talk to somebody and then like get a thing back. And having that dialogue around that quest was so good. Just like the way she says, "No, I am not this anymore.
Yeah.
Leave me be."
She
Old
sort of
blind Mary
fades back into like the background. She'll probably exist in the rest of eternity. That's good.
Duskwood. You bring all these resources to Abercrombie. And then all the while he acts like more and more suspicious the further you go in the quest line. And you bring it back to the mayor of Duskwood, because he has like a letter for him. I have a present for the mayor. Yeah, bring this letter to him. And normal, and it's very unusual because like if you try to read the letter, it will say this letter is like strange and arcane and you're unable to read it, which is yet more indication that our Abercrombie is much more than what he seems. And you bring the letter to the mayor, has you trigger an event when he tells you, "Fool, you've doomed us all. There is a thing coming here, and I don't know if we'll be able to stop it." And then it triggers like a whole event where the Ravenhill Watchers, the Night Watchers are just calling out about like how a strange presence has entered Duskwood, how the creatures have the watch post at the center of the zone has fallen, and this massive lumbering abomination, this terrifying monstrosity of flesh and metal, wanders into town and just starts killing. This is Stitches, the gift from the embalmer.
He's so cute.
Stitches is a thing that you may have like heard of before, because like Stitches is Stitches was saying stuff that they put him into like the MOBA.
Yeah, because with Stitches, it's like anytime someone finishes the quest, the entire zone turns into this from the sort of like atmospheric like horror into like an active like there's a monster walking down the main road that will kill you horror, like that one long road that you need to walk across the entire zone to safely like cross the zone over and over and over again. Yeah, they've got this huge creature who will kill anyone who like touches him. And of
killed
course
me a lot of times.
Yeah, when the zone was well traveled, when a lot of people were playing Duskwood, Stitches were summoned all the time, and of course so it became just another element of just making the zone unplayable in terms of just like safely, comfortably moving through it.
Yeah, you would have to go through the dark forest to deal with the wolves and stuff to not fight that thing, and I think that was really cool. There's some like follow-up quests afterwards where you go like find the necromancer's heart and like find his bride, who's this horrifyingly powerful ghoul, which is kind of cool, but I feel like the highlight's got to be Stitches. And yes, the sorcerer named Abercrombie summons a monster named Stitches. Very, very funny, haha.
You see, it's funny, but like I don't think in the original thing the quest does feel a little bit like goofier than the rest of the zone, but not like it still feels like the classic sort of gothic horror. In that way, just in a little more of a slightly tongue-in-cheek way, right? Which in a way, I think it's effective. It helps like sort of lighten a little bit of the mood of the zone, while I was still like maintaining like a perfect connection to everything else around it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just
and the Stitches moment is so unbelievably horrifying to actually like deal with. That's like it like almost like comes back and like becomes more serious again in like retrospect.
True.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, it's the silliest part of Duskwood Classic is literally the most dangerous part. So it's like it offsets the silly with actual danger to your character.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's time to move on to Stalvin Mistmantle.
Ew, no, he's so creepy.
Yes. Stalvin is really interesting because, well, every other part of the
Because he's
zone.
a pedophile.
Spoilers.
Oh my god, politically relevant.
Jesus Christ. Every other part of the zone, right, is someone is reacting to an active threat of some kind. Like, it's like, oh, Jitters is hungry. He needs food. Oh, the Worgen are bad. We must feed them, right? Also, they may like unveil themselves into a bigger plot, into something more serious, more full. But it always starts with this sort of direct, oh, there is a threat, an existential threat to my safety, to the safety of my people, the safety of family. So we must act to deal with that. But here it's different, right? Because you start and you find this woman and she basically says, oh, in my cards, I was reading them, right? She's like a tarot card reader. She's a cool character throughout the zone who just sort of just like gives you little tidbits and makes little comments and like lots of quests route through her. It's like, my granddaughter seems to be endangered. I don't know what's going on. She's like, can you like look into this for me? Like, and she like gives this sort of vague beginning to this quest. And the rest of the quest is just basically you slowly trying to explore what was Sullivan and who went on with him. Because like I think like in Darkshire, there's sort of a isolation from the rest of this of the Kingdom of Stormwind for obvious reasons. So there isn't much like as much understanding of what's going on in the rest of the world. Of course, as we've talked many times before, Stormwind is not really a working kingdom anymore. So it's not like everything even has that connection. So it's just okay. Well, why don't we connect it? So a lot of the story is just you, basically following this trail of letters and trying to complete the clerk of the town hall sort of records on this man, and he allows you to go to Westfall, to Stormwind, to a couple places in Elven Forest, where you just like slowly piece together, oh, who is this guy and what was his story? And just like immediately as an idea to start with it, I think that's like very much. As I mentioned earlier, like I feel like Duskwood does feel a little bit isolated from the rest of the human part, but this is this is the part where we like, no, it is one kingdom, it is one set of people. We must go and follow every part of it because a person in this kingdom might live or exist in any given area here. And so you put together his story, and you find that he was like a teacher, who like sort of went through exploring different places. He was mostly focused with being a teacher of children throughout the work. And eventually he became a private tutor for a family, a rich family. And
became very, very invested in a girl named Taloa, which is an anagram for Lolita.
No.
Yeah. And just like becomes, and you like read these letters as he becomes more and more. And when you find the places with these letters, first off, the clerk keeps telling you, don't pursue this. It is better to let certain things lie. And like every time you like find one of these letters, you find like a ghost that was like that is disturbed by all of this. That's just like, no, leave this to be. Do not pursue this. And I like that. I like how it builds the foreboding towards the quest line. As you read the letters of Stalvin becoming more and more obsessed with Taloa and more resentful towards like boys her age for having her attention.
Eventually ending with him murdering her whole family.
Yep. And I think it's interesting because Stalvin is very different as a horror movie like villain than Morbid in the Dark Riders or Abercrombie and Stitches. He's more grounded in a way. Like he feels more real in a way that I think was very interesting and like helped tie into like it helped tie into the zone being more than just a supernatural dark forest place, and helps it feel more grounded as a place to have this, village horror going on.
It really like solidifies a sense of despair, like because all of the other problems that you're dealing with, you get to take an active part in solving them, at least a little bit. Like you're actively doing things that are helping. Whereas Stalvin is a terrible person who's already dead, whose victims can't be can't be brought back, can't be helped, and you just get to find out about it. You can't do anything about it.
Mhm.
It's very much like the vibes of like I feel like uh a lot of what is it, 20th century horror is like that. It's like HP Lovecraft stuff is usually someone going through something that's already happened and they can't affect, and watching the terrible descent of someone into depravity and madness.
Yep.
Yeah,
You do.
Well,
You do.
it's especially interesting because like the way you actually discover it is not like through like some kind of like action horror thing. There's not really any like battles outside of just fighting the ghost stuff, which appear as you find the letters. They're found in like places like Moonbrook, right? You go to the old dusty town hall. There's like a little box which would happen to be locked up there, or you go to like this old estate in Stormwind that's been
Okay, but
basically
doesn't that feel so HP Lovecraft?
no, for sure. No, I did agree. I was saying the way that's like the person who's defaulted on their debts, and so their city, their house was torn down, right? And just you go to all these different places, and just like these different rotting elements of like the kingdom of Stormwind. So it's like the reason you can't see the story straight is because the kingdom of Stormwind itself doesn't have a straight narrative anymore. There's no the economic like structure which kept it all together is falling apart, and there's these the clerk is the person who desperately tries to put it together. He's the one who says, "No, I am the person who represents the kingdom in a way." It tries to make sense of it, like tries to put it all together. But he's like afraid of putting it together because when you start to see like what the kingdom is, then you'll start to see the truth of it, which ultimately, of course, is that it's run by a dragon. But I think that like.
What? That's crazy.
I think
Lady
it's a really
Cressler
cool.
is so good.
I think it's probably the most compelling metaphorical sort of approach to what Stormwind is as a kingdom. The thing that links it all
Oh my
together
God.
is a terrible sort of poorly maintained paper trail across these falling apart estates, telling about the literal pedophile. I think that's just
Also,
incredible.
it's an evil leader taking care of a child right now. Like,
True. Yep.
yeah,
No, I
just saying.
think it's clearly like something like metaphoric going on in that decision. I think that's just like the way that sort of like takes the horror like core of Duskwood and just expands it to like the world. It's just great.
Yeah. You do go up and kill Stalvin's like undead self, but
no, you don't.
yeah, you do. It's the end. It's the end of the quest line is to like go up and kill and.
I thought that only happened in Cataclysm.
No, you did that in the original too.
Damn it. That's so annoying. I think it would have been more interesting if you just didn't kill him.
Maybe. Madame Maeva does like thank you for like putting this to rest.
But I think the killing makes sense, right? Like your only like way of actually interacting with the world in World of Warcraft really is reading things and killing things. And like it feels like a little bit like hopeless. The fact that we literally can't stop any of his murders. Like those happen is that like well maybe we'll stop his ghost from doing bad things. It's like it feels a little bit like bittersweet and a little bit like hopeless. Like we're just doing this to make it feel like we have like some kind of conclusion. That was the feeling I got from the quest.
No, but I'm saying that they shouldn't even given us the false sense of like conclusion. We should have just felt bad about it. Maybe I just like suffering and pain too much. So.
That's what my argument is, that you don't actually get a conclusion. The fact that you have a conclusion of any kind makes it feel even more like hollow. Your powerlessness. That's my argument.
Maybe. I just think it's unnecessary.
All right, so that brings us to the last thing. The fucking skeleton who Dape's murdering you.
Bro, he's literally the best. He's baby girl.
So, we talked about this was Morgan. This is more Laden. There, if you like do any questing in Raven Hill, you will sometimes find a skeleton that is slightly bigger and stronger than the others, with a more like put together sword. And it is
slightly stronger, much stronger,
much stronger than the rest of you. And if you're like questing alone, will kill you. It is extreme. It is like there's like a whole bunch of like zombies that are like levels, like in the 25 to 26 zone, and then there's this fucking level 30 asshole who comes out of the woods, has a long aggro range, looks and just murders you with a big sword. This is more Laden.
Another element of the Duskwood is extremely dangerous. No matter where you are, you're fucked.
Yes, this guy's a fucker. And we had to run away from him a bunch of times, and he did kill us a few times. And eventually, as you like quest through the zone and get stronger and stronger and build your friends together, you will eventually find a strange unmarked unmarked disturbed grave, which will mention the name of Morgan Lattimore. And you might think that's kind of similar to Morladim, the skeleton.
No, don't think that at all.
You get a quest to
Unrelated.
go back. You get a quest to go back to Darkshire and find out this dude's story. A paladin from the Second War who lost everything when Duskwood was overrun and gave himself over to despair and madness, and then later I think took his own life. Then was risen later as this.
He killed a bunch of innocent people and then he killed himself.
Right. Yes.
Because he was so angry that he found his like old farmstead burned and he was told that his wife and his young daughter were dead. Oh wait, no, his daughter isn't dead, but his wife is dead.
Yeah, so yeah. We don't know at this point. We were told at this point is he killed everyone around him, right? Is he? What war is he from? Was he champion of the Second War or?
I thought it was the Third War. I thought it was.
No, it can't be the Third War because Stormwind wasn't involved in the Third War. I don't think.
Yes, he must have been a champion.
He went to war fighting alongside Uther the Lightbringer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Third War.
That's true.
I think he was a paladin, guys.
The paladins, the paladin order was
so he
created
was probably
during the Second
summoned. War. Yeah, no. When Morgan was 32, war broke out in Lordaeron. He went to war fighting alongside Uther the Lightling. That's the Third War.
It's a really common thing. A lot of people of the human kingdoms throughout Stormwind, because they're all allied underneath,
the alliance.
The alliance up in North America sent soldiers up there, even if they weren't actively participating.
No, the Third War is what ruined Stormwind.
Yeah. The Second War ruined Stormwind, right?
First war ruined Stormwind.
No, sorry. The first one, I mean ruined Stormwind as in like all of the lasting impacts that we see right now in WoW Classic, in Elwyn Forest, Westfall, and Redridge are a result of the Third War.
Yeah, I don't think it was actually there was actively sent people, but rather it was more like everyone heard the call to come up north, and of course all the knights and paladins of the kingdom decided to go and follow it, and then of course they got all taken off the fucking Northrend and killed there. So, yeah.
Bro, what the hell, Arthas? Why you do that?
It is kind of fun how Lordaeron gets fucked up a bunch, given how we can't be sure which war he was part of.
What? Yes, we can. It's literally the Third War.
Yeah,
but the Second War also was fought in Lordaeron.
That's true.
Anyway, the point is
it's the Third War. It literally says.
Uther was also involved in the Second War, though. The Paladin Order was founded for the Second War to fight the orcs.
But it says in the quest that it's the Third War.
It does?
Yeah, everyone just checked it out. I
thought you just said it like.
I was reading directly from his Wowpedia page.
Could you not tell?
Oh, okay.
When Morgan was 32, war broke in. Why would I talk like that?
Well, you just said war broke out in. Well, you just said war broke out in Lordaeron.
Awen was eating for the thing. Let's go on.
Okay.
The disbanding of the Knights of the Silver Hand, the death of Uther, and the spread of the plague caused help us
the
Third War.
You're right. I'm wrong. I am a fool and a knave.
Incredible. Anyway, we do this. I mean, eventually, of course, we give this sort of the description of him. Like, again, we talked about earlier about this. Ari mentioned that you should read all the text. This one is, I think, the most compelling text in the entire story so far. In this zone, the reading of like the feeling of just despair and just horror after he realizes what he did, after he like went crazy, right? And it's like it feels like it's hard to tell what was Duskwood like back then. It's hard to say, right? Obviously, like some of these threats, Duskwood was clearly somewhat more of a friendly place in the past, right? There we had farms and stuff that are all like over the run, that sort of thing, but. There's sort of like this spirit of Duskwood that seems to be there even as he comes back to the Third War. Was it brought back with him? Was it something that he found here? It's hard to say, but I think that sort of ambiguity is like really effective here because like you just like something about Duskwood's horror like enters him and causes him to kill these people.
Yeah, it's really just the themes of like all the human zones. It's like everyone who went off to fight in the Third War, which was horrific and traumatizing, they all expected it to be okay when they came home. But unfortunately, every single place that they were in, like especially Westfall and Duskwood, were completely ruined and not how they remembered it. Like it
Yeah.
feels like a very I think it's analogous to a lot of the ways that just active duty soldiers in US wars come home and then everything is different and then they go into deep depressions leading to like there's a reason the veteran suicide rate is so fucking high. It's
Yeah.
like you come home and you expect everything to be okay and everything to go back, but because you've been changed by the horrific experiences, it can't be. It's also just this the theme of the three most impactful quests, the Stalvin, the Lottimore, and the Jitters quest, are all about things that happened in the past that have irrevocably changed how these people live their lives or don't live their lives. Um, and it's something that can't be changed. It's something that has already happened, and the only way to deal with it, like it's hugely traumatic, and it has destroyed everything in Duskwood. And the only way to deal with this is like little tiny changes that make things a little better, but really don't fix everything because it's not possible to ever go back.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because like I think like who does like Morgan Lattimore really like most remind me of? Stout Mantle, right? Like that's his copy in Westfall, and the fact that the very different like experience of the two characters feels very I don't know, telling of what those two zones went through and what, where like in Westfall, there was always still farmers on the farm. There was always still a hope, even though everything is collapsing, nothing really works anymore. It's mostly driven from Stormwind, from this like sense of like a failure of the system, of the economy, of like these bandits coming up and like even further pushing from it. Where in Duskwood, it's like something so horrifying that no human could possibly face it, and so the only choice is we come back from the war is to commit suicide, right? And even then, you were not saved from it. You were risen up by the twisted horror of the zone.
Guys, it's crazy that the WoW is actually just about the Iraq War. Crazy guys.
I mean, it's media from 2004, was it?
Yes, 2004.
Everything in 2004 was about the Iraq War. And you go back, you get a group together and destroy the undead monstrosity, and bring his and leave him to rest. You go back. You go back to his grave, and you've no, not yet. Before you go back to his grave, you first go and take his. I think it's his sword you take with him. To his
ring,
daughter.
his ring.
Ring.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Sorry, I couldn't remember which one it was. Which item it was.
Of course, it has to be the ring. It has to be the element, the emblem of family.
You bring his ring.
It's not violence. That's important.
Right.
Yeah.
You bring his ring back to his daughter, and
she gives you the element of violence, the sword.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's really cool. It's really cool because it's it's great. But it's really cool because you come to her because you find out, you get the ring and you're like, oh wait, I think you bring it back to someone in Darkshire, right? And at this point you did not know that he had still family alive. You basically it implied very strongly his family was all killed. And he said, oh my god, the Morgan Lattimore, what a horrifying story. But he still has the daughter alive, that's what the head what Night's Watch like says. And
yeah,
you're
she's
like
kind of sexy, low key.
This little like beam, this like a beam of hope that comes to. At least she's still alive. It's like the way you end the zone is just like, I don't know.
Oh, it feels so good. Actually, it
God,
really feels like it really gives you a sense of hope for the future. Like it's oh my god.
And if I remember correctly, yeah, you take the ring or the sword to Morgan's grave, back to Morgan's grave, where this all began.
Sword. Yeah, you have to bury the sword. You give the ring, you bury the sword. That's like, the complete.
Well, but the thing is, you don't actually bury the sword, because as you're you find Morgan Lattimore's spirit, finally whole and sane, talks to you. He basically just like says, I no longer need this. My spirit has passed from the realm, and though I was unworthy of it, Perhaps you will carry on the light through it. And his spirit fades away, and he gives you the sword. And it's a
Told you he was baby girl.
And it's a pretty powerful sword for like this part of
for sure.
part of the quest. And I just think that was really rad. I just think it was really rad to like have this like little peaceful.
What's interesting? Sorry, you went.
I just think it was really rad to have this like after this like big horrifying skeleton to have this like just peaceful passing on ending. This positive ending where like in the end after all the horrors, he's able to pass on and to move on, and his daughter is able to mourn him as he was and not as what he became. And you were given this sword as a symbol of not of the monster he became, but as the hero he once was and what you could be. And I just think that's rad. I like that because that's effectively the finale of the zone, because Morbid Fell is extremely powerful, and Morlatum is extremely powerful and by far the strongest enemy in the zone besides Stitches. So having that be the finale of the zone, I think was just really good. A nice capstone, a positive way to like, there is something beyond the horrors. There is something to hope for, to strive for. And this place can become whole once again. If
you go insane, you can redeem yourself as a ghost. That's
rude. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. To go on that, to take it a little further, I love the geography of where the grave is. It is right above Ravenhill, the area of horror, but it is right on this like outcropping that you can see into Elwyn Forest. You know, you can see like the peace, the thing you're hoping for. And I like that little like that contrast there the grave has, and it's like when I feel like in the past you're always at the grave looking into Ravenhill, because that's you're always like, I have to go back in the Ravenhill. I'll go back in the Ravenhill, get more and more things to do there. But here you're like, okay, I'm done here. I'm free. I can look into Elwyn Forest. It's awesome. Especially because, like, I think at the beginning of the zone, right, you have this like dark paladin bring you aside and be like, "Hey, Bob, we gotta indoctrinate you into paladin life. We have to like do all these things, and I don't trust anyone. It's weird paranoia. It just doesn't feel like being a paladin. But when Morgan gives you his sword, you feel like a paladin, in the old school way.
Yeah.
This time.
Yeah.
God, it's good. That's, I think, brings us into the Cataclysm version of the zone. So we've talked a bunch of times about how Cataclysm zones are usually either sequels or repeats of the zone. This one's both.
Yeah.
Half the zone is... It's really weird. Half the zone is pretty much a retread of the original version of the zone. You still go to Abercrombie. You still do like the Legend of Stalvin. Albeit, you still go hunt Organ for Kalor. With a lot of the quest text unchanged.
I feel like the Legend of Stalvin's vibe is completely different now, though.
That is true.
Because you're not dealing with a potential victim of Stalvin, you're dealing with his literal brother.
That is true. Instead of having like a fortune teller with Madame Ava, you have Tobias Mistmantle, who has recently come in from Gilneas, where he's been separated from his family, trying to figure out like what happened to his brother. That was kind of, and to be fair, that was kind of cool to have to have like that element there of like a dude, the outsider who like won't leave this alone, be given a face and not just to be you when everyone is saying no, let this slide, do not pursue this. That said, it does lose. I do feel like it lost something without connecting it to the rest of the kingdom, with the schoolhouse in the ruined schoolhouse in Moonbrook, the burned down house in Stormwind, to have all that put together.
The problem, you can't really have that anymore because it's like it would be like rehashing Elwyn Forest again, like they did.
True.
Cataclysm. Yeah. Like it doesn't make sense. This story doesn't make sense, and they actually recognize that this time in terms of the theming.
Which is appreciated, but it's so frustrating because it feels like there is one like full human experience that is compelling in Classic that I think Cataclysm just generally completely lacks, and that's always sad to me that's gone.
That's valid.
The vibes also just feel a little off for not having to go to Ravenhill for most of it. You lose that amazing. Like Abercrombie was moved to a different abandoned tower. And I just don't think he has the same vibe if he's not specifically in Ravenhill.
Yeah, I mean, there's like an element, right? As I mentioned, like the walking back and forth across the zone, just sort of getting you sort of in full of it. And I think every Cataclysm zone tries to do this. And this is not the least effective or the most effective. I think it's kind of in the middle, where they kind of make it more like place, then second place, then third place, then fourth place, moving across the zone. It feels nicer in some ways, but I definitely think I agree with you. You lose that sense of just completion, the wholeness of a zone.
Yeah.
And the Stitches boss fight is turned into a little like mini instance that you go to with everyone who's on the quest.
Specifically to like reward players who played through Classic and got killed by Stitches a million times. It's like, haha, now you get to kill Stitches, yay!
Yeah, it is kind of funny to like go outside and suddenly everything is on fire.
Yep.
And I don't know if it has the same vibe with like Abercrombie in like a whole necromancer getup, like riding on the thing's shoulder. I don't know if it has the same vibe that Abercrombie had as this like as the weird hermit who just releases this gift into the world to destroy and kill.
Yeah, and Abercrombie's, I don't think it's too much. They definitely make him a little funnier. A little bit, little bit more modern fantasy horror, a little bit less gothic fantasy horror, but not like in a crazy manner. He still feels like goofy, but in a threatening way.
That's true. I don't know. I'm just not sure how I feel about the changes to the Stitches quest line. I think ultimately the location change hurts the vibe a lot.
I think it's meh, but I don't care about this part of the zone. I want to talk about the new parts because they're way more.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
Fair. Yeah, because the thing is with this new Cataclysm version of the zone, old Duskwood was kind of a wasteland, right? Like outside of Darkshire, you had like you had Jitters and his little at Raven Hill. You had Abercrombie, who sort of is a friend, and you have Sven and his friend, like companion.
Excuse me. What about the little outpost in the middle of Duskwood that leads to String-of-Thorn Vale? How dare you forget about those three guys?
The three guards you don't really do anything with. That's true.
What the hell? Most important characters over here.
The guys who exist to have it be horrifying when Stitches fucking mulches them.
Yeah, but the point is, like,
those guys.
This versus Dome, I think partly because of the new structure, though, where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Going to different parts of the zone, it feels less like barren and just like completely terrifying. It's still a scary zone, but more in the lens of like, but it feels much more of a, we're fighting back, we're reclaiming this area. We are like, this is something, which is funny because I feel like a lot of the Cataclysm is the opposite because the Cataclysm itself blew up everything. Here, nothing has really changed by the Cataclysm. I can't think of any like specific geographical change.
I think this actually makes sense though. This difference in Cataclysm because like what Cataclysm like the message here is that Worgen are actually people.
Yeah.
And that you can't just slaughter them willy-nilly. Like that's part of the point. That's why Worgen came here to settle, is because they're like, oh, Worgen are actually, people, they're just crazy. So we gotta fix them. It's a lot more hopeful.
Yeah, but it's still horror in a way. It's a more hopeful kind of horror because I think about like the quest where we take the one Worgen and who's gone insane and who keeps like jumping at you and then knocking you backwards. And you basically like
that was so funny.
And
that's awesome.
And you basically try and like save him, right? And the way you try to do this, you literally put him in like a little executioner's like thing,
like a guillotine.
Stocks.
Yeah. Not a guillotine, just a stocks. Yeah.
No, it was a guillotine. There was the blade of a guillotine right above him.
Oh, was it? Okay. Well, what is it? An execution?
Just in case. Just in case, guys.
Yeah, and the fact that's where we sort of like bring it to like to sanity from that place is, I don't know, that's metal as fuck.
Like, because if you think about it, that's exactly what they do in Gilneas when your Worgen character gets turned into a Worgen. Mm-hmm. Like, you are literally, they're like, okay, if this doesn't work, we're gonna have to kill you. So sorry.
Mm-hmm. Now, fun fact. So I do like how the Stalvin changes sort of lead into this, because turns out Tobias Mistmantle is a Worgen, and he like
just
transforms
like every
into
important character from Gilneas except Lorna.
He turns into, and for the fight against the undead Stalvin, he calls out and says, "You're the same as me. We are both killers." And then he says no, and dramatically turns into a big wolf and rips out the zombie's throat, which I thought was kind
kind
of
of sexy though, don't you think?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think like in the original, right? I think there was more of a psychological horror, right? The violence is like something that's just outside, always outside, and you sort of are just like sheltering inside to get away from it, only venturing out in little like expeditions, little bits while you're struggling always to come back to it. But here it's more like bodily horror, right? It's about like the Worgen themselves transforming. Like the Sullivan like says, no, you were a killer just like me, right? My sort of psychological horror is the same as your sort of bodily horror, right? And obviously it's not true. Like that is a lie he tells him. Like that's not he's not a weird pedophile, murdered a bunch of people because he was mad they couldn't be with their daughter. But
me when I can't be with that 15-year-old. Gotta kill everyone now.
God damn. But I think it really translates the old Duskwood's vibe into the new one's perspective on like sort of like attempting to sort of make sense of the beast, right? Instead of like the Worgen just being this terrifying threat, this like transformation, this scythe of a loon, right? This curse in the land. They are a thing that is like within every character, right? It's like the Worgen within, to say in a funny way. That's sort of comes dominating it.
I think everything is just more tangible in general, which leads to like, because unlike before in Classic where you can't actually change anything, you can help a little bit, but nothing ever changes really. Like everything you do here leads to actual change that you get to see. That's why you get to kill Stitches. That's why when you kill Morbid Fell, again, LOL, a lich now, you literally see all of these skeletons that formerly littered Raven Hill are gone now.
Yep.
You get to fix Sven. You get to turn him sane so that you can talk to him.
Oh, that reminds me. We should probably get to. We haven't talked about that yet.
Wait. Let's say one of the first quests. One of the first quests to get there is they can work an herbalist who says, "Oh, it's really a shame that none of these humans are trying to actually understand this land, and try to like talk to spirits. Here, I want you to go into like this old farmstead and communicate with the spirits and give them peace and hope. You know, like that's like what you're doing."
We're working towards tangible change here, and that's the huge difference.
Because the Worgens in themselves can see the change in themselves, and so they can see a place that they almost like envision that same change from them, from insanity to sort of sanity, can be expressed onto the world itself. We can take this insane world.
You can control the beast inside you, and you control the beast outside you.
Yeah, it's a really cool like sequel idea for Duskwood, like a really really cool one in my opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I like especially how it changes Raven Hill. The human part of the zone is no longer just one madman walking in circles around a well. He's here still, but so is some Worgen alchemists who have used this place to do good, to find other Worgen that could be that could be given their minds back. And then he does it with the Worgen that's been sort of stalking you throughout this like part of the zone. And then you find out its name. Sven Jorgen. Yeah, it's Sven again. Sven
I
is
sort of
back.
Spoiled that already.
Yeah.
My bad. My bad. Actually, it was important to my point, so not sorry.
Fair. And Sven like grabs Jitters by, and like it's interesting is like the thing that like gives Sven his humanity back isn't just the first thing that gives him his mind back and his identity as Sven Jorgen is his anger. The initially is his anger. The grabs Jitters by the throat and starts to choke the life from him for, what he brought upon his family.
But
and the Worgen around him.
Jitters is into it, so it's not very effective.
Stop.
A quick aside on Jitters. The fact that the Worgen could say at Raven Hill, I think partially because they want to do good, because that's this in the space. Partially is because clearly they're outsiders. Clearly they do not be trusted really in Darkshire, and so they have to come to this place.
There's a reason Tobias is hiding that he's a Worgen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. This is a place for outsiders, right? And the only outsider before was Jitters. He wasn't a human who wasn't quite human anymore because of his trauma, right? So all these people come here and sort of like take Jitters, and Jitters like he's still a little insane, but now he actually has a purpose. He's a mission. He's helping as like an assistant. Yeah. Like he seemed to choose that himself, right? Because like we all like sort of feel like outcasts from Darkshire. I really like that.
And it's redemption for like his failure for like the death he brought about to Sven's family. And
it's about fixing the wrongs that couldn't be fixed before. Again, crazy.
yes, I do like how like the Worgen alchemist like tells Sven like you have a choice here. You can be you can kill Jitters and be the beast, or you can put him down and be the man. And
then Sven puts him down, but like a dog, so he kills him anyway.
No, it doesn't. Jitters lives. That's not what happened.
It'd be too sad for Jitters to die.
Yeah, he's baby girl as well. Don't kill him.
And that leads into like a retread of the Morbid Fell quest line. And while I'm kind of on the retreads of the Kalor hunting quest line, the Abercrombie and Stitches quest line, and the Stalvin quest line, this one I think is a flat improvement. Genuinely, the way that like you go, the way that like it uses the area of Raven Hill Cemetery as this like final area to do, the way you go through. The way you go through it, and instead of going elsewhere to forage the light thing, you are going down to the abandoned parts of this like once this human graveyard and finding stuff there, going through this like cool like mini dungeon, fighting through these undead, and finding Morbid Fell once again. This time, turned into, Isaiah would said, turned into a lich.
Man, crazy.
A quick aside there, just like a quick thing right there. There are these two giant like underground catacombs underneath Raven Hill, and in the classical zone,
I knew he was gonna bring that. They were gonna bring this up.
In the classical zone, right? You never actually like you have to go with them. Like just you want to like fight some things. You don't actually have to, but you always like want to because there's a lot of enemies down there you want to kill. And eventually you realize if you go through those two giant things, they're actually connected. Like there's like the walls clearly were originally built separately, these giant catacombs, but like it's crumbled and there's like a movement through it. It's just like when I first found that playing the thing, it just felt like this like shared joy of discovery. Like, oh my goodness, like this whole space is just one giant catacombs, one giant like underground world, like almost like a kingdom like of skeletons underneath the place. I really adore that. And here in the Cataclysm version, you are like the place you find the sword, right, is right at the like border, right?
Yeah,
which is really cool. It's like, oh, it's the thing that connects walls. Actually, there's the thing that brings all these like skeletons together. That like brings this almost underground like skeleton kingdom of this catacombs. It's the same place you find in the deepest dark, like the weapon that saves you. I think that's really cool.
God, it's so cool. And the Morgan Lattimore quest line is exactly the same. They just didn't change it. They didn't need to.
Why would they? He's baby girl still.
So I think it's not as compelling, with this new tone, but it's still good.
Yeah, because the theming doesn't work as well anymore. Again,
see, I don't agree with that actually, because I think the theming actually works better because we've been talking about how Stalvin, how Tobias, how the addition of Tobias and his relationship with Stalvin and of Sven Jorgen's Worgen self being like the monstrosity is inside us. It is something that you can become and something that you can reject. Having this the end of this be this fallen paladin, a man who chose who couldn't escape the violence and hatred and fear that's like that.
You think that's better than the war trauma theming?
I think it just fits into it. I think the war trauma theming is like it can be like part and parcel of this, and I think it works in parallel to the stories of Tobias and Sven. Genuinely.
I just can't agree because, like, for me, it's like what Tobias and Sven say, right, is that you can control it, you can find something. It is sort of like, as I said, bodily horror. I don't think the original game zone at all is body horror. For me, the original zone is so much this sort of psychological just dread and discomfort and all those sorts of like elements, right? That are sort of related to the kingdoms collapsing, like the economic collapse and like the trauma of the war, and those things just coming together into just one moment. It just feels a lot more meaningful than like, oh, this is just another version of Worgen, like. Sense of taming the beast, of trying to come to terms with that stuff, and this place failing.
I also think that the Morgan Lattimore story is about the inevitability of like the terrible things that and how everything is changed after you've been traumatized. and the inability to deal with it, which
But again,
I don't think works as well as a metaphor for the beast within. Just because I think it's dangerous. I think it's a dangerous way to think about trauma and like that you get from literally killing other human beings.
I mean, but that's sort of what happens with But I mean, isn't that sort of what happens to Tobias? Like Tobias.
Yeah, but
turned
Tobias
into
is
a
a
war
much
menace,
more
hurt
metaphorical.
people.
It's a much more metaphorical version of something. Like I think that Cataclysm is dealing with things through more of a fantasy lens than the way that the classic one is dealing with it.
That's fair.
And I think Morgan Lattimore's story is more compelling as a realistic, like a more realistic. And obviously, it's not realistic. A more realistic lens into war trauma than it is another metaphor for the beast within.
The same way, I think Solvin is more effective because in the original, but due to that sort of more sort of mundanity of it.
That makes sense. That's fair. But yeah, this was a good zone. Honestly, both versions. Like, I think the Cataclysm version's a little worse, but ultimately I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's time to go into favorites and least favorites.
Mm-hmm.
What was your least favorite part of classic Duskwood? I'll start with this one. My least favorite part of classic Duskwood is how the things it was meant to lead to don't exist in the game, and it legitimately weakens the zone to not have the. And I know that's like a bit of a cop-out answer, but like legitimately having this like very compelling setup for Sven Jorgen and the Dark Riders that you think is Morgan Fell is only part of this. He's not the architect of all this misery. He is only an a guy who took advantage of what already was there. The real source is darker, deeper, and this is going to be related to these Dark Riders. The Dark Riders never show up. The thing that they're probably related to, which was the original plans for Karazhan, never happened. So Sven's plotline is just left awkwardly hanging in the original version, and I think it's a damn shame.
My least favorite, I think, is I think it's the ogres that exist in the zone and how they're just not acknowledged by anyone except for Abercrombie. Because I feel like the Night's Watch feel a lot more competent than like the Westfall or the Elwyn Forest Guards or the Redridge Guards. Like they feel like they actively like know what's going on and are like trying to guard against it. And the fact that there's like even a little outpost that's like right outside of the ogre compound, and yet there's no quests, and they don't talk about how, oh, maybe they're spilling out from Stranglethorn Vale, blah, blah, blah. Like, I just think it's a missed opportunity.
I cannot think of a single thing I dislike about this zone whatsoever.
Damn.
Loser.
I literally have been like sitting here being like for the last like 5 minutes, like, what's my least favorite? No, I have nothing. I'm just gonna say it. The only thing I can think of is I wish they had another song they use for the zone. That's the only thing. I wish they had a unique Duskwood zone song. That's all I got. That's it.
So valid. I mean, it's a really good song.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. What was your favorite part of classic Duskwood? All right, it's me first again.
Yeah.
Shoot, I made a mistake. My favorite part of classic Duskwood, it's got to be the atmosphere of the Stitches event. God, it's so cool. Like when the way it happens, the way like the way the guards will like announce the sense of foreboding as this thing lumbers up the road as it gets more and more dangerous. The thing going closer and closer to Darkshire. And the way that the town has to effectively suspend things to fight this massive creature that will just obliterate the town if it's not stopped. I just love the atmosphere of that thing. You don't get events like that in Classic all that often, so having it was such a unique part of the zone that I just thought was so cool.
You love events, area. I remember remembering the classic Barons. You talking about how much you like to the event with the centaur.
I do. I like it when they do like weird events that break up the sense of questing.
I like best the I think probably the Morgan Latimer quest, just because it's such a good crystallization of the themes that we get through all 4 of the human zones, with the absolute like tragedy and um decay of the Stormwind Kingdom that happened during the Third War, and the trauma of the people returning, being like I feel like a metaphor for PTSD and trauma. I think it's really effective, and I really like it.
My favorite thing, it was actually a tie between what you said, Awen, and the other thing, which is just the way that the Stalvin quests sort of, it's similar to your thing, Awen, sort of brings together Storm. But I like how it takes the whole idea of like the horror and like the violent gothic horror of um Duskwood, and they sort of puts it and blends it into sort of like this more mundane, more human like horror. And the way that mundane human horror is sort of like put like in relationship to like this clearly economic collapse of this kingdom, and all these things just sort of like come as different elements, just all sort of coming into one thing, which is just this kind of just really mundane and horrifying person who is like feels more monstrous than any monster in the zone. And that's my favorite part.
All right. What was your least
So
favorite part?
valid.
Yeah, true. What was your least favorite part of Cataclysm, Duskwood? I guess I'll start again. My least favorite part of Cataclysm Duskwood is how they completely fucked up part of the Abercrombie quest chain. Like, they clearly intended for you to go to Raven Hill later than later than before, because they wanted to like really like emphasize the Worgen and stuff, and like the Worgen quest line and the final stuff with Morbid Fell. And they failed to do that because they didn't put enough zombies for one of the quest lines, where you had to like there's a bunch of zombies around Manor Mistmantle that aren't unforced respawn, and there are not enough of them that you are guaranteed to get all of the ghoul flesh or whatever, the ghoul ribs for whatever Abercrombie's quest line. So you kind of have to just like trudge all the way over to Raven Hill and kill people there, and it's just like you fucked up. The whole point of this new setup was so that this was like saved as the finale of the zone, and you fucked up. So like it just sort of failing to be itself in the way they rewrote it is probably my least favorite thing.
Oh fuck, I have to go now. What is my least favorite thing?
I can do mine.
Yeah, you go.
My least favorite part of the zone is, well, yeah, I could say that I most of the quest chains from the original to this one, I think mostly suffer a little bit with the new context, even if I still love them a lot. But I think the one thing that feels just like wrong to me is actually what you said, the new structure of the zone. I hate that Riven Hill is just this end place you go to with Worgen now. I much preferred the way that like you checking back and forth across the zone. Like I feel like losing that just loses so much of the horror of the zone, which just makes it so much less effective as a piece of horror. And yeah, that would be my least favorite part.
Makes sense.
My least favorite is probably the Kalor quest chain. Like Torn said, it suffers. Like most of the original quest lines, it suffers a little bit, but I think this one suffers the most because it's just like you just kill a bunch of random Worgen, which is especially jarring when you go to Raven Hill and you meet the Worgen who are like, "No, we're gonna fix this place." You're like, "Oopsies! I killed so many people that we could have helped." Whoopsies. That's so cute of me.
True.
Pretty embarrassing.
That is true.
So I think there's a little cognitive dissonance in that quest because of that.
All right. What was your favorite thing about Cataclysm Duskwood? It's the scene where Sven Jorgen regains his humanity, and has to choose and lifts up Jitters by the neck and has to choose between being a monster and being a man. And like having that there was just so cool. I really, really like that scene where like where the Worgen that's been stalking you for the past like several quests gets a name and a personality, and like in a way that like feels especially notable if you've done the zone before and you know who this guy is. And so you know why his like turmoil with Jitters both defines his identity and yet could also cause him to lose himself to the anger that makes him a monster, makes him a Worgen, I think is really cool. I love that scene so much.
My favorite part is actually so when you're doing the Worgen quest where you're trying to find Sven and you go and he knocks you over, and if you're in a group, he knocks the next person over, but if you're too close to that other person, he knocks you over again. I got knocked over 3 times.
Why is that your favorite?
Okay,
really
I'm
funny.
like, that's not bad. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Like, that part is really funny.
I can't believe you've taken my favorite part. It was what I was
No, my favorite part is the way that, like, Cataclysm is always struggling to figure out if it wants to be a sequel or a repeat to the zone.
Fuck you, Awen. He's taking my thing. He's like a jerk.
Get wrecked. And finally, Cataclysm was sort of able to settle on both by using a clever retextualization, by using different themes and recontextualizing the original quests, so that they fit into this new theme that is different but related to the original themes of the zone, but in a way that's compelling to the new world that Cataclysm is trying to make, especially with how the Worgen function. I think it's especially effective. One thing that I truly hate about Cataclysm zones is when you kill the exact same guy with the exact same name that you killed in Classic. It pisses me off so much. And here, they sort of throw a little tongue in cheek. They're like, Morbin fell. I sent some adventurers to kill him. Oh, but I guess he's a lich now. So they gave me an actual explanation to it. It's like, okay, they're acknowledging that this is a dumb thing that they keep doing. But this sort of feels like an actual sequel and repeat, but in a way that works really well.
My favorite part was the Worgen knocking over and the sequel part. Yeah, those things. I think my favorite part was there was this in the Worgen of Raven Hill. Generally, you had a few of them, and most of them was somewhat martial in their goals. Like, oh, we got to get these people, we're going to do the experiment, that sort of thing. But the one Morgan, I don't remember her name, but the fact that she's like, oh, why does no one care about these things? Like, why does no one take care of these spears? And every quest she does is some kind of well, this doesn't make sense. Why have no one really been collecting medicine, taking care of these things, right? And it's like, they're very obvious things that the only reason Darkshire hasn't really been putting resources into them, is because they just were so terrified by existence that everything just became so bent towards the will of paranoia. Basically, paranoia just dominated everyone's being, and her coming in,
obsessing with survival rather than progress,
and her coming in just being almost with kindness and love, just being yeah, let's just do this thing. And thinking about the fact that she clearly is not welcome at Darkshire. She's clearly someone, she's in this sort of abandoned planet. She doesn't even have that strong relationship, it seems to the other Worgen. They sort of talk to her oh yeah, she has these things, but she seems kind of she's a big outsider. And the fact that as a pure outsider in all these different perspectives, she's the one who can I don't know, embrace the lost souls of the place. I just found that really beautiful.
She feels like Madame Ava, but if Madame Ava was younger and more progressive.
True.
Madame Ava is definitely in less of the Cataclysm version of the zone than she is in the original. She's still there.
Well, because I think that a lot of her role is taken over by this Worgen woman.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, would you recommend this zone?
Both of them easily,
sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Go play it right now.
This is
God. It's so good.
I'm easily wowed by Classic, and I think that Cataclysm was great.
Right.
I agree.
So, where are we going next?
I don't know the alphabet. Someone tell me.
Well, after D is E, so we're going to Elwyn Forest.
Okay, no, it's not alphabetical.
Let's
No,
go to
we're-
a Stone Talon Mountain, but spelled with an E.
We're going to Estonia. Okay, no, we're going to wetlands next.
Oh, I'm interested in saying that.
D to W. That's crazy.
That's literally one of the least talked about zones in all of WoW. I'm pretty interested in that.
I remember.
I bet it's
nothing
like
about this
Lost
zone.
on where there's a reason no one talks about it.
Well, I think that'll take us for today. I've been Ari.
Torin.
Again, I'm still Awen after the podcast is over. Like, I don't change.
And we'll see you guys in another episode of Wild by Zones. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.